Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Johnson, and I have ridden on the back of a dragon. I have fought wyvern, and I have wielded lightning. Now, if you can't tell from my amazing editorial skills, this, of course, was fiction. In fact, it was the first time in fiction that I was able to see myself, as most people do, inside of the book. See, before I was writing dragons, I could never place myself as a character before. Because I knew everything the characters were doing, my body wouldn't allow. That was until I read a book about a girl riding dragons who, like me, faced just a little bit more than the plot. And that's why I'm here today, to speak to you about the importance of disability representation in fictional literature. To do this, I'm going to look at, firstly, harmful disability representation and effect, secondly, beneficial disability representation, and last, why fiction? Now, first of all, harmful disability representation is very common, although the most common just doesn't seem that obvious. James Moore, the chief business commentator and columnist for the Independent Voice made a formidable point on this in his 2023 article inside of the London newspaper, The Independent Daily Edition, writing, "Disability is frequently associated with defects of character, even wickedness." Now, as I said, there are many forms of harmful representation, including wickedness, which is why Darth Vader is here on our screen. He is written like a villain. And this is a very common trope in fictional literature when it comes to a disabled body character. Often they have this tragic backstory that leads to them losing some form of ability and becoming disabled, which leads to them seeking revenge. You've all seen it. And while this is important representation, because disabled people should be represented in all types of characters, this should not be the default. Next, I want to talk to you about the Hild in the Inn trope, which is also very common. Sarah Gibbons, in her contribution to the book Uncanny Bodies, Superhero Comics and Disability, published by Pennsylvania State University Press, wrote about a DC comic book character named the Oracle, who's represented by this cosplayer here, saying curing Oracle meant erasing her identity as a disabled woman, and hence eliminating the presence of disability in the comic. This was a devastating move for disabled fans, who appreciated having a character with whom they could identify. Now, the wickedness and the erasing of the disability are both very common, and both of which say that a disabled person cannot have a happy ending. And two, they lead to this effect: the how to fix stigma. They add to the fix it stigma, where a disabled body person is represented and then fixed. When in reality, a disabled body person does not have a magic potion. There's no magic side quest that's going to lead to this automatic resolution in their disability. Now, of course, there are some treatments available, but it's not the absolute. And more than not, a disabled body person just wants to be accepted as is and represented as is. We can have our happy ending and still be disabled, and that's what should be represented. Now that we've talked about some harmful forms of disability representation, I want to talk to you about some beneficial ones. Because too, there are many common forms of this, yet the most simple ones are often overlooked. Amazon bestselling author Penny Batchelor, who co-founded the ADCI Literary Prize for Authors with Disability, Writing Disability Representation, wrote in an article published in the magazine The Bookseller, "I am a firm believer that you've got to be able to see it in order to be it." And that's why in my thrillers, I include disabled characters going about their everyday lives, if not in everyday circumstances. So this leads me to the point of everyday people. Representing everyday people is all the more vital because disability is common. According to a 2025 infographic, which is represented here in a breakdown form, from the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website, more than 28.7% of adults in the United States has some form of disability. And now when you look at this graph, understand that 28.7% only represents adults and only represents people in the United States. So, being that this is such a high number, and it's even larger than we know, normalize seeing disability is all the more important. See, the idea of writing disabled everyday background characters is often overlooked by authors because they want to have that main character representation, which is very vital. Except representing the small things helps to end an unwarranted moment with a stranger where, say, you're in a grocery store and they see you shopping, and all of a sudden they stop and tell you, you're inspirational for this. You're an inspiration. Now, I don't personally see you buying a box of cereal as inspirational. So why is it because I'm disabled that I am? It is because we are not used to seeing disabled people in roles that aren't inspirational in our just everyday life. So that's why normalizing seeing this is incredibly important. Secondly, this can also help an author write more realistic in writing the everyday person or the background character. See, sometimes authors who are not disabled get held up in fear that they will not do justice to this character. A lot of research goes into writing books, even fiction, believe it or not, and no matter the hours spent researching, there's still an emotional bar and a level that cannot be reached unless you understand. So, for instances like this, supporting in background everyday characters allow for that kind of representation to be there without having this holdup in writing that character. You don't have to add the background story. You don't have to add the reasoning. They can just simply be disabled and they can be represented just like disabled people should be. Next, I want to talk to you about another form of beneficial representation, the invisible disability. See, not all disabilities are visible. Some can't be seen by the eye, some can, of course. But with the ones that aren't visible, they are commonly something that's called a dynamic disability, which the ability of the person changes by day or night. They vary. And this is a great example of a person who has a wheelchair, but they don't need it all the time. This is considered a dynamic disability. As for me, I have a dynamic disability, which is called Ehlers-Danlos. I'm going to continue to butcher that till the day is long. But as far as it goes, can be summed up as my tissue, my ligaments, my organs, everything that makes me me and is meant to be glue, acts as silly string. This can be shortened into EDS, and with EDS, it is a rare thing to see represented because it's hidden, so it's not talked about much. But when it is, and when it was for me, I felt seen. Lola Crossman, a student, apprenticing writer, and avid reader, writes on this representation in a 2025 Baskin Throke article, interviewing fellow reader Laura Blakemore at a release party for the book Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, who stated, "So much of the representation in books is visible disabilities, but this book talks about showcases invisible ones like EDS." Now, Rebecca Yarros is an international best-selling author. And of course, a lot of this can be credited to the fact that these are 5-star books. I highly suggest. But it also has a lot to credit to the fact that there's disability representation in this. And not only does it provide representation, it provides an unexpected hope. It provides a community that I had no idea was out there until I read these books. And it also gives a conversation to a disorder that's not commonly talked about. Lastly, I want to talk to you about why fiction. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, great, but why fiction? Shouldn't this be nonfiction's focus? And of course, nonfiction should talk about it too. Please do. That's where the scientists go, and I could appreciate some healing. But the Entropy magazine Best of the Year writer Ross Showalter says it best in his 2020 article in the digital newspaper Electric Lit, writing, "When we use speculative fiction to talk about disability, we allow the reader, regardless of their ability status, to feel the frustration a disabled person feels, rather than just intellectually understand that ableism exists." Being able to place yourself into a character is so important, and it's so vital. Even if you don't understand the character, it can help you to. See, fiction is not just writing dragons, and it's not just historical fictions and whirlwind romances. It's a chance to reimagine and to inspire. Now that you understand the importance of disability representation in fictional literature, with the info I've shared with you today about harmful disability representation and effect, beneficial disability representation, and why fiction, I leave you with this quote today from Frida Kahlo, who struggled with much in the realm of disability in her life. "Feet, what do I need you for when I have wings to fly?" With this info today, I hope that you will take it and you will use it to give wings through representation, because somebody might be waiting on that encouragement to fly. Thank you.